Okay, so this week we're talking about Old Man Logan, which was phenomenal, I have to say. And I have to say thank you, Jeff, for finding it.
Yes.
This is not something I would have normally picked up. In fact, I have picked this up in the past at the bookstore and go, oh, that looks kind of interesting. I'll get around to it one day. But, you know, because I know there's a lot of Wolverine stories like this. Like, there's a few years ago, his origin one came out, which was like him.
Stupid. Oh,
I never read it. See, so like, I have all these like extra Wolverine things that I'm like, oh, I'm sure are really good, and I need to get around to reading. But until then, I got all these other things.
Jeff Loeb slaughtered Wolverine during that story, I think. The end of it was cool.
Well, we're not talking about that
story.
So this one is Old Man Logan, and we only have 15 minutes to give the review.
Yes.
And this story, man, there's so much. Like reading this comic was like reading a movie. It was so epic. It was so amazing. I mean, the basic plot, I don't even think we can do a full-on review, but and what we'll do is I'll give the basic plot, and then we'll start picking off some of like our favorite things from it. So the whole idea is Wolverine is like in the future, well, I guess it starts at present time, and it's like an Elseworlds thing. This isn't part of the regular storyline. The villains all get together and decide and realize that there's a lot more of them than good guys, and so they all kind of come together and attack and kill off a bunch of the heroes.
The most important heroes. Like
and then by the end of it, like, it's pretty much been all of them. And so the story takes place 50 years in the future, and it starts off with Logan. He's older, he's got short hair, he's a farmer, gray hair, and we find out he's a pacifist. He hasn't popped his claws in 50 years, and he just
refuses to fight, doesn't even, not even to, and he just takes this beating. Yeah,
he's just a complete pacifist. So it starts off with his rent comes due, and unfortunately his landlord is like the granddaughter or something of Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and Hulk is in charge of California because when the villains took over, they split America up into 4 different kingdoms. So they had California was the Abomination, and then now it's the Hulk. So it's Hulk, formerly Abomination. He didn't say what, but obviously he killed him or something. The Nevada area, and when we say California and stuff, like, it's literally like from top to the bottom of the continent. So I say California, but it's all the way from
the West Coast.
Yeah, and then like I say Nevada for the next one, but it's all the way up from like the Canadian border down to the bottom. Yeah. So the Nevada area was Magneto got it, but then he was killed by the Kingpin, not Fisk, but just a
black guy that looks
like Luke Cage. Yeah. Magneto old, this guy killed him, he's just a Street Fighter guy, he calls himself the Kingpin, so that's the Nevada area. And then the Bible Belt is Doom. They made a reference about how no one knows why, but Doom wanted the Bible Belt. So he has the Bible Belt, and they don't really talk a lot about, we don't see much of his stuff. And then the East Coast is ruled by the President, which we don't know who the President is when we start out. So the whole thing happens where he can't pay rent, so they basically beat the crap out of him. And he has till next month's rent to pay, he owes them double. So
they smear him pretty bad, right?
Yeah, really bad. He wakes up and he's in bed, he's all bandaged, and Matt Murdock shows up. Oh wait, no.
I thought he was Matt Murdock because it's 50 years in the future. He's got the blind guy glasses on.
That's Daredevil,
sitting there. He's got like the cane or whatever. I'm like, that's gotta be Matt Murdock, and I was a little heartbroken, to tell you the truth, when I found out that it wasn't.
No, it was Hawkeye. So Clint, the reason he's blind, he got glaucoma, which is ironic because that's his power.
His ability to shoot people, and he doesn't have the vision anymore.
The whole idea of it is that Clint hires Logan, because it's not Wolverine, he'll correct you, it's Logan. Wolverine died, and we'll say when later. So he hires him to basically escort him in the spider buggy to New Babylon, which crosses all 4 kingdoms, and it's basically the new Washington, D.C. So they renamed it New Babylon. Some of the things, like Sacramento is still Sacramento, some of them have been renamed. So Wolverine warns him that he's pacifist, he's not going to fight. Clint's basically like, okay, that's fine, but we found out later that he's thinking that if they actually got in a fight, Wolverine would... He was just plain pacifist, he didn't think he really was, and so he figured that, Wolverine would be my bodyguard, and so, which the first encounter they have with some bad guys, with the Ghost Riders, we find out that he actually is
was weird. There's these guys with the flaming wheels and everything, and they're
skulls, and we also find out that Clint is running drugs. So Wolverine's not really happy about that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, yeah, it's not good to be, you know, I used to be an Avenger, I used to be an X-Man, now I'm running drugs, it's illegal, blah, blah. But at the same time, you're like, otherwise they're going to kill my family. So it's kind of like, kind of has to go with it kind of thing.
It's too late now.
Yeah, so they get all the way across. I'm giving the basic plot, we can go back. So there's a lot of stuff I'm skipping over, but they go all the way through all the kingdoms, and there's a lot of other stuff that's going on in the process of, and I don't know if we'll have time to talk about this later, but they get sidetracked because Clint's daughter, who is so she's Hawkeye's daughter and Spider-Man's granddaughter, gets captured because she tries to take out the Kingpin. We think as the heroes, because she also has a guy who calls himself Daredevil and a guy who calls himself Punisher, who all we see of them is them getting eaten by raptors.
Yeah, that was pretty vicious.
She ends up becoming a villain, so then it goes from Magneto to Kingpin to now Spider-Woman or whatever, which I have to say her costume was really cool.
It was.
I really liked her
costume. It reminded me very
costume.
much of the Betty Brant, I think it was.
I have no clue what you're talking about.
Spider-Woman? The one that looked more like the Ben Reilly costume. No? No idea? Okay, never mind.
So, anyways, we get over, so they get all the way through the kingdoms, they pass through Doom's kingdom without much of a problem. They get chased by a T-Rex, which there's dinosaurs all in the west and like Midwest because of, all the way up to like Doom's kingdom, because of the Savage Land. There was a period where they imported them and it was like the in thing to do, and now they've gotten they're loose everywhere. So they get chased by a T-Rex who has the symbiote on it. So it looks like a weird chocolate cream cookie dinosaur because it's like the black with like the white dripping down from the top. It was really weird looking dinosaur chasing them, and of course they're in the spider buggy, so they're like shooting at it and all this kind of stuff. And then Black Bolt saves them, and apparently
Black Bolt is the man.
He's the old man,
and
bald. Yeah. But Black Bolt, who's an Inhuman, he's basically a mutant, but in my opinion. But the Inhuman, and then Emma Frost and some other mutants, they cut a treaty. It doesn't say with who, but I think Magneto. And it turns out that mutants aren't the dominant species that they thought they were. They were just a blip in the evolutionary train or whatever. So so basically they get all the way to New Babylon. And wrap this up, then we can just start picking on our favorite stuff. Like, I know we're going to want to talk about Penn Falls, because that was amazing. So, they get to New Babylon, and right before they walk in, Clint tells Logan, he's like, hey, real quick, I need to let you know, these aren't actually drugs. And so, of course, that makes Wolverine kind of happy. Well, it turns out that they're meeting with the leader of, basically, the rebellion. Sounds like a little Star Wars thing.
The Resistance. The
Resistance, okay, the Resistance, that's what it was. And, yeah, that's right, they're the Resistance, and they're forming a rebellion against... And their whole idea of this resistance is all the villains are either dead or old. And so it should be easy to kill the rest of them and basically fix things. And so what Clint was tracking across the country was, instead of drugs, it was 70 vials of the super serum. Super soldier serum, which is what made Captain America. So basically they'd have 70 Captain Americas in terms of power, which would be more than enough to take out the rest of the villains, because they're, like I said, all either dead or really old. So a lot of them died off. And so it turns out it's this very heroic thing. Clint's like, there's just one thing to the deal, is you have to, I want to be one of the new Avengers, because the team's going to be called the Avengers. I want to be, I want a serum, a vial, I want to be on the team. Well, they ended up pulling out guns, and they agree, but then it was a setup, and it turns out that there is no resistance. It's actually S.H.I.E.L.D., which I was like, wait, S.H.I.E.L.D., they're good guys. Well, because the president is bad, which we'll find out who he is in a minute, S.H.I.E.L.D. works for the president, and the government's bad now, because it's run by a villain. So Wolverine just, a whole clip of like an automatic gun gets shot into him, so he's out. They shoot Clint in the chest, and then shoot him in the head, kill him.
Very brutal death.
Yeah, and then they bring him in. Well, it turns out the president is none other than
Red Skull.
Red Skull. He defeated the Avengers. He became the president.
Which I was a little surprised when I saw that Doom wasn't the president, just because of.
Yeah, I was more in the two when it said Doom's Kingdom. I'm like, I would have thought that Doom would have come out on top, but apparently he didn't want it. Like they even said, no one knew why, but he just wanted the Bible Belt. So for whatever reason, he didn't care about the East Coast, he didn't care about being the president, he just wanted the Bible Belt.
Yeah.
It was weird. So we find out that, okay, Red Skull's the president. Long story short, like this whole thing was just a trick. to get the super soldier serum.
That alliteration in there.
So that way they couldn't basically do what they wanted to do. And well, then all of a sudden one of the henchmen goes, boss, this other guy that was with Hawkeye, there's something wrong with his body. And they're like, well, of course there is. You shot him all up with a machine gun. And they're like, no, his wounds are disappearing. They're like, what? And then all of a sudden Wolverine's like punches this guy in the face. And
still doesn't pop the
claws.
claws.
No, he's defending himself, but he's not popping his claws. He ends up getting in this huge, they lock the rest of the henchmen out. He gets in this huge fist fight with Red Skull, who at first is kicking the crap out of him. Because he won't pop his claws, and Red Skull apparently is super strong. I don't. So was he ever super strong as one of his powers?
He's essentially the Nazi or Russian, one of the other.
It would be Nazi.
Version of Captain
So
America.
he is strong. Okay, cool. And then so Wolverine's like, I gotta find something to fight. You're sitting there going, your claws, you know?
Yeah, and you're like screaming in your mind.
He gets thrown into the trophy case of all of these relics from that the Red Skull has in this. They're in the trophy room of heroes he's killed.
It reminded me very much so of from
Next Avengers.
Next Avengers,
yeah. The Ultron room, except for this is in the White House instead of the big open room. Mm-hmm. So he grabs, what does he grab as a weapon?
Captain America's shield.
Yep, right here.
Oh my gosh, I was like, yes! I like wanted to yell like, booyah, in the middle of a bookstore.
And so he just basically beats the tar out of him, decapitates him with Captain America's shield.
Yes.
So he's like, rocks! This is a pretty violent book, so remember the show's PG, don't let your kids watch it unless you're okay with them hearing about Wolverine decapitating Red Skull with Captain America's shield.
Yeah.
So then, like, his guys are busting in. He's like, well, what am I going to fight, to defend myself? It cuts to a panel of him wearing the Iron Man, not the full Iron Man armor, but the chest plate, the gloves, and with the razor and the boots.
I don't think he would fit into the Iron Man armor because he's not as tall but he's a lot stockier.
So he's got the boots, the chest plate, and then, or does he have the helmet on? Later on he did.
Yeah, he puts the helmet on to fly home.
Yeah, so then he just blasts them away, and he flies home with it. He gets most of the way, crash lands, is walking home, and now, see, the thing is, they had the money they were using to lure out the super soldier serum. They gave to the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., like, go play, go have fun with it kind of thing.
Party.
So after everyone's dead, Logan's like, you don't need this money anymore. So he's pretty much set forever, because his rent was $500, which this economy is different, so money is a lot less valuable. So he gets almost home, and I gotta wrap this up because we only have a few minutes, and then we want to say a couple of our favorite parts. So he gets all the way back home just to find out that his family's dead. The Hulks got bored and came back and killed them, and so he goes and he kills all the Hulk. Well, I was calling them the Hulk tards. Because basically, we find out that Bruce Banner ended up mating with his first cousin, who's the She-Hulk.
Conley's her last name, isn't it?
Jennifer Connelly? No, that's, I don't know. It's
Jennifer, that's the actress that played...
Helios, right?
From I was talking about from Dark Water. And
oh, yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
And anyways, so it gets to the point where they have this huge battle, or he kills off all the offspring, blows a bunch up, slaughters the rest of them, very like Anakin against Sand People style. And then there's this huge battle between the Hulk and Wolverine. And when Wolverine triumphantly defeats his villain and wins, and the story's over, right?
No, but yes, at the same time.
Well, first off, I have to say, before he did the fight, they tried to, like, the neighbors were like, if you go get revenge, it's going to be worse for us, just give your family a good Christian burial. What are you going to do, Logan? He said, the name's Wolverine, Bob. Popped his claws up in 50 years, blood dripping down his hands from popping them and everything. So yeah, they go in this massive battle. And let's go ahead and just go into a third segment, actually, because we're out of time. Finish up the plot and then say a few of our favorite things. And so let's do that. All right. Well.